Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. My name is Nichel Anderson. I'm your host for my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. Today is my release, my last summer break of 2019 podcast release, where next month I will be returning back to my full season. That would be season 3 of my podcast show here. And I enjoyed my summer break. I'm still enjoying looking forward to my last few weeks before I kick back up my season of both my podcast shows. And so today I want to focus on MOLIAE Characters. I did plan to do like a new short modern day story, but I'm going to be honest, didn't really have enough time where I want to focus on to release that type of story. I wanted to take my time with it, and I had other things that kind of took much of my time this summer, and so I think I'm going to push that further down the workflow pipeline there, probably maybe sometime next year, or it just might be later, maybe next summer or something, because I have other things that I got to roll out. So I'm not going to be able to do that new modern day short story. And that'll give me time to really take my time and not rush through it. So today we're going to focus on MOLIAE Characters. I just want to first do some housekeeping, get that done, and get that cleared away. So again, this would be my last episode for the summer break, where I was only releasing one episode a month. So starting next month is the official premiere of my return back. And for the last 2 years, when I started this podcast, I was releasing every week, as other projects that I wanted to roll out took more time, and I just decided that I need to kind of clear it to give me some more, not take so much of my time and give me other opportunities to do other things. I decided that my regular season will be bi-weekly instead of every week, because that was a lot of work, and I have 2 podcast shows. I have this one and the other one, which is the Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. If you're not a subscriber to that, go ahead and help me out and subscribe to that. That's a more motivational self-help type channel. I was doing both of those shows weekly. I like to make sure that I'm consistent with things and to make sure that I'm putting out the best that I can possibly do. So now both of my shows will be every other week, averaging 2 times a week. Some of these weeks of the month is like 5 weeks, so you might see it'll be 3 weeks before you get one, but I think that only happens maybe 2 times, I think 1 or 2 times in this season 2019 to 2020. The season premiere for this show and my other show will be September the 9th. It still will be on Mondays, so that's consistent. It's just going to turn out to be like every other week you'll get a new episode instead of every week. And I know some probably really like that, but hey, the fun is over on that part, but you're going to get something new and fresh and something different, of course, and that will ease up my availability of time. With that done and said, let me see what else I want to say. Well, this is my summer, so I got a couple more weeks before I go back, and I have enjoyed myself, and I wanted to focus today about the MOLIAE characters. So let's get started with that, okay? This is just going to be some of the characters that came in my mind that I want to add some notation to, that I want to connect the dots. I do have plans to have a more online presence of a breakdown of these characters. I did start at that, but again, some other projects came up that took me away to go back and focus and have it the way that I want it. Now, the MOLIAE app, by the time you get this podcast, it basically has been revamped. I just have not put it out there on Google Play. I think the one is in the App Store, if you can get that. Have it linked up with some of the characters. The one that I had on Google Play came off the market. It will be returned back. Just give me some more time. But I did get to complete that. It was a lot of work, but I did get to revamp that. I do have the characters, not all of them, on MOLIAE.com. Go there as well. Not all of them. There's still a work in progress. But the goal is to just kind of let you know that in the near future, you will have all of these characters that I talked about from my book, from the podcast timeline, and this future series that I will be starting this season, well, the first couple months in this new season. So I don't want to take too much of time on this particular episode here. So let me get started, okay, before I keep talking. Let's talk about this. So I have some characters I want to talk about and their correlation to one another. The first one is Abia II. Now, he was in the book. He has not been introduced into the podcast timeline of MOLIAE. He will be in this prestige return of MOLIAE Stageplay. He is an Egyptian. He's a close friend to King Daniy'el. King Daniy'el has not been introduced as a ruler in the podcast, only as a young boy, and that was during December of 2018. I think it's the short I was talking about. So I had a feeling that I needed to kind of talk about him briefly. I feel that he's, or at least his family lineage is coming up, because in the book he came off, as I felt him, extremely wealthy. I wouldn't say really close to like King Mahlon and the family, but he know of them. He know of the family members, so he's in that circle. But I just have a feeling that his introduction into the podcast timeline, which again is mainly from the point of before the time of Princess Aamina, he's coming up, or at least his connections, maybe his father or his mother or his sister, his father's sister. Something's coming up. I just feel it. That's going to connect it more to how he really got to know the royal family, not just because royalty, of course, but something else, the connection. Because King Daniy'el, at that time period of my book, Mitsrayim, went to see him. He also stayed at his property in Mitsrayim, so that's something to look at. He's about the same age as Daniy'el, and he is very knowledgeable, intellect, but that's somebody to take a look at. Again, I will have all of these names that I'm talking about in the description of this podcast. All right, I want to move over to someone else, which is Hilik, high-rank military officer. Now, Hilik was the first one that came on the scene, and I believe that's when Queen Hagar was talking to Ezra on the balcony of the palace. She is confirmed, of course, she was pregnant. That's when Mahlon was still getting well and was introduced about as being one of the top spies that was designated. I think he was the one, designated by King Mahlon of his order. He came to give her a message. Well, it was something about Comrade Tatar that she told him to go and move some forces. And he said, Nontu, say, my queen. And came back up later towards this is now fast forward to the finale. No, I'm sorry, not the finale. It was I think it was episode 50 or 51, where he is coming back up. He came back up a few times earlier, but I just want to hone on him, which is Helik. Sometimes I might spell it Helek. And then Hilik, Hilik. If you remember in season 2, where there were some imposters coming onto the palace, they got stopped, and then Hilik went to go talk to Ezra about it, and Ezra went to send a request for assistance of some other, let's say, priests or people that's in the knowledge of that realm to assist of what could be going on. There were some movements, because they also were very deep in astrology, and that came back to confirm of Hanee, which I'm kind of step ahead of myself, but I just want to point out that he's more of a person of the high rank forces of to protect the palace, I guess, when the general is not there, in this regard, Tatar. And he's more of the second realm of forces to protect any means that deals with Mitsrayim and their territories. But he's much more as like a secret spy, almost like a Bond, James Bond. You could think of it that way. But I just felt that I needed to talk about those two. And it was something else that in the second episode 2, season 1, is where Nontu is leaving the palace. I said this notion where it was the high Hittite rank guard that told Nontu as they was pulling his arm this way. And I mentioned that of men. And so I'm going to take the time to really outline, because I feel the feeling comes to me that each level of rank, either known or secret, which that would be Hilik of that secret, has not only a particular military force of authority or rank, but something else, like a higher level, just a high level of esteem, but it matters in the guard. So I'm going to break that down. So you're going to get that breakdown soon. But definitely there's a separate higher level of military force of Mitsrayim that is directly under the rule of King Mahlon for his special forces. So I'm going to break that down, because a high Hittite rank guard was the one that was designated to walk and move Nontu out from the palace, that he can leave with Comrade Tatar at the time following behind to make sure he will leave the palace. So it's just coming to me that I need to eventually break these different ranks up, and with the authority and the knowledge that they have. Okay, all right, hopefully that did not confuse you there. So let's move on to Nontu, Lanko, Ecko, Kishe, Goui, and Hanee. Okay, Nontu, you've been hearing that a lot. I just want to let you know, Nontu, even though he got caught in the last episode for my season 2, I feel that he's coming. I don't feel nothing serious and important that you won't hear from him again. I mean, he's definitely in trouble, but I just feel his ties and his connection goes deep. And I've been for the longest trying to connect him to Kishe, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. The other one is Lanko. I don't feel Lanko is going to be removed from the timeline. I feel that he's going to return initially in a smaller role. Probably, I don't know, last season I thought he was going to be able to come through real quick, but then I started doing some other stories like Atlantis. So it kind of pushed back what I wanted to roll out from Lanko, but I don't feel he's moving anywhere. Ecko, that's a different story, so you're going to have to tune in to find out what goes on with him. Kishe and Goui is from my book. Kishe and Goui will be, these are Orions, right, in the star cancellation. They will be in the play because they were in the short film, the websodes, and the book. When I talk about Kishe even now, I still feel a connection with Nontu. I just don't know how those dots connected, right? When we talk about Kishe and Goui, that timeline definitely later on is from the book, and that's where you get King Dumah. I never figure out how they all connected. I mean, I knew what was going on at the time that motivated Dumah, King Dumah at that time, but Kishe and Goui, especially Kishe, is somewhat connected with the three of those, Nontu, Lanko, and Ecko. But I really feel closer to Nontu, that's more of a connection, and I think we're going to find out, of course, soon. Then of course we had Hanee, and Hanee is the high rank of all of them. But you have to remember there's a scene in episode 52, and I'm going to talk about that in my next when I break down my director clip notes, where Nontu says something that you always choose Ecko over your own, or over your brother. So I don't know that that's biological, they're brothers, Hanee and Nontu, but it's definitely some conflict there, some resentment of how Hanee, feel more closer as a friend wise to Ecko than Nontu. And so Hanee is part of the high rank Orions to those of Tekun. That's in episode 36 of season 2 that I introduced them. So I'm going to as well break up their rank, their level of authority. I did mention that a couple of times. So we have Nontu, Lanko, Ecko, Kishe, Goui, Hanee. Kishe and Goui for sure will be in the stage play, the prestige return of the play. And of course the other 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to be still into the, I like to say, the canon of MOLIAE. All right, let's move to Sanel, Ateo, and Oten. I mentioned those names, and I wanted to make sure sometimes they sound the same as how I'm pronouncing them. So we have Sanel, which is Sanel. He's definitely going to still be in the podcast series. Him and Mahlon, they just don't like one another. I really think it's Sanel just hating on Mahlon, but he's definitely from the continent we call Africa now. Ateo as well. They are brothers. So we have Sanel and Ateo. Ateo is spelled Ateo. Then we have Oten. Oten, Oten, was in the beginning, I think maybe episode 5, 6, or 8, is definitely within the first few episodes of season 1. Okay, that Oten came in, and he's more close to Nontu. They're able to rise Nontu up once Nontu betrayed Ecko and still kept General Tekun, all right, and against Ecko wishes. So those three, Oten is not the brother of Sanel and Ateo, it's just those two brothers. Because in season 2, I said King Mahlon intercepts to two brothers. Sanel and Ateo has a long history with Mitsrayim, and so we will definitely find out more about that. But I want to kind of reiterate those three. Okay, they would not. I don't feel at this time that they will be in the stage play, the prestige return of MOLIAE stage. I don't feel that they will be. If so, it would be some type of connection of someone else that's tied to them, maybe like a distant cousin or something. Okay, so then we have King Mahlon and King Kohane. Of course everybody know King Mahlon, okay? But King Mahlon and King Kohane, And General Tekun, I'm still referring to General Tekun because he was the general of Mitsrayim until he got hurt. And then over time, that time space, it was decided to promote his son, which now we know that is Comrade Tata. I don't feel General Tekun would be in the stage play, right? Because this whole prestige of turn of the stage play that I was saying that we still in the prep phase of doing that is the timeline of Princess Aamina. So a lot of things has happened, but I do feel that at the time of the book, when I wrote that timeline of Princess Aamina on the scene, Tata was the general. I just didn't know nothing about his father. It's not coming through until now. But those three, Mahlon, Kohane, and Tekun, was definitely friends. And if you go back and see episode 51, 50, you will see that, it might be 52, you will see that there's a bond and they know each other for a long time. So those three definitely, of course, going forward. Now, with Tekun, he has a different fate that I see him continue to be in the storyline of the podcast. I see him I just feel that he was hurt severely, but not severely that he's not on the scene anymore. Then we have Rulen, and I think Rulen kind of in the same way grew up during the time of Mahlon and Kohane, and King Kohane is over the what we would call Stageplay down there, right? Which later, who inherits that territory is King Dumah. But Rulen comes up definitely of a person that was around but not really in that group per se, because he's not a ruler, even though his name is Rulen. But his information and his family influence and of that area, definitely maybe different tribes was a part of that time period with them. So you're definitely going to hear more of the initial three, Mahlon, Kohane, and Tekun, how they all came about to become friends and their adventure and all of that, and then also Rulen, how he plays and all of that, why he's another one that can't stand Mahlon, right? All right, so now we're going to go kind of top on the future series with Princess Aamina, which you're going to, of course, get an introduction of that. Of course, she was the one that came through really strong in the book of Mitsrayim. When we started the podcast, this is before her time, but now as a special, or what I felt that my spirit said to focus on this with Nahor and Aamina. That's what we're going to focus on when my season returns next month. So the future series is primarily be Princess Aamina and Nahor. Now, overall, for the stage play, my plan is to return back to stage. The main five is Princess Aamina, King Dumah, right? King Daniyel, Nahor, and Salma. Those were the five that I initially did the episode stage plays, and then we did part 2. So those was the 5. I did not bring in anybody else when I did the stage. Now, fast forward, of course, the plan is to bring everybody, or at least most of the people from the book. The podcast show characters that I'm introducing is before Princess Aamina, but some of those people do, as I say, come into the fold of the stage play timeline of Mitsrayim. So again, those 5 is very significant, and I feel like I will continue the future series from the point of Nahor and Aamina mainly, and then kind of seed out, as you can see, those other 3 on the scene, because Daniyel is of course born. He's about, by this time, when I did the future series, he's definitely older than Aamina, but he's definitely on the scene. Dumah is 2, but I haven't wrote that scene that he's coming in because I'm focusing on Nahor. And Salma hasn't technically met Aamina. Definitely hasn't became friends yet. So Nahor was there in the beginning. They was together since they was infants, because in December of 2018, those series that I kind of released, short of the short, I gave you a hint of Nahor's mother as being pregnant with him during the same time of Princess Aamina, pretty much with Hagar, right? And then I want to touch on King Chaldel and King Sapa. King Chaldel will be in the stage play. He is the husband of Queen Hanee, which now in the podcast we see as her as a princess, Princess Hanee. She was in episode 1 that started off this podcast, so that's significant. And he's basically the ruler where we're calling over there by Kohane, right? King Sapa is basically the ruler where we will say near Ethiopia, and he's married to Queen Hagar's sister. Queen Hagar, I always felt that she was an Egyptian. And so now I get more close to that feeling that Tahib, her father, right? I call him grandfather Tahib in the book. In the podcast, I'm saying him mainly Elder Tahib, of a different rank as well, of those of the mystery school of thought, which again, I have to break down that too. But nonetheless, I felt that Queen Hagar was actually born in Mitsrayim. So she's Egyptian. And so I'll probably go more into that, but that's what it just come out real strong, that by the time of her birth, Queen Mother gave birth. She was in Mitsrayim. She was living there with Tahib. All right, so then of course we have Edo Tahib. He's definitely an Egyptian. He was born there of high status, his family rank. All right, the other thing is I have Comrade Papa, Comrade Nahimi. They would be in the play. And we have Comrade Bapar. He's with King Dumah. And so I got to go back into that as well. And then Comrade Nahimi, of course, is with King Daniyel. And I don't see them coming up in the podcast anytime soon. But of course, they will be in the play. All right, so the last thing I want to kind of focus on is the finale, episode 29 of season 1. I highly advise you to go back and see that. And that YouTube video was very good. Okay, for that, it was the finale, episode 29. And it was as part of that where I mentioned that she was wearing, I'm talking about Queen Hagar, when she came into the domain of Ecko. And she was wearing the symbol of, it said that the guards of Ecko said she was wearing the symbol of our world. Or she is wearing the symbol of our world, Heket. It was under the breastplate of the solid gold that she had on, the necklace, and it was a half circle, a square made out of an unknown metal that sparkled, right? And so that symbol, for some reason, the Orion guards, they was in amazement by it, and they immediately bowed before the queen. That's something to look out for. I see some of that it might come to light of why, but that's something to kind of make a note of that will be explained more deeper in the future once we get back to that timeline. Then also it said, I mentioned that the 12 royal high rank of the first order surrounding Queen Hagar, that is under Ezra, the high herbalist, the priest there. So and he's the father of Nahor. So that's something to make a notation of, well, because I feel that's another where I have to break down those levels and those ranks and what they mean, the knowledge and the power that's connected to that. So they were surrounded by Queen Hagar, and they were the one that was carrying this golden oval half-shaped bowl of Nile water. Okay. The other thing to kind of note is that I mentioned there was 2 Mitsrayim males, and they were standing close to Hagar, and that's when she did something that you have to be a patron member to find out what. That I mentioned they were the Ezra High Council of Thea. So again, going forward, I am going to break all these different ranks, these different groups and memberships and all of that, so you can kind of get an idea of what they all can do and not do in their reign. All right. At any rate, let me go ahead and close this out. Thank you so much for tuning in for this summer. Please go ahead and share my podcast. Download my app if you can get it on Apple. You should get the other one on Google until you get the MOLIAE app. But at any rate, thank you so much for supporting me. If you like it, please share it. Thank you.